Welcome to the Starting Over Stronger show, where you'll find help and hope for your divorce survival and recovery. Divorce well, live well.
It's okay to feel whatever you're feeling and feel it as long as you want to. And no one, and I mean no one, right, has permission to tell you, oh, you should get out there.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Starting Over Stronger Divorce Survival and Recovery Show. Thanks again for joining us. And today we have a fun topic. I think you're going to like it. Our guest today is David Lea, and he is a life coach. He has a Facebook group called It's Time for Me, and he is a life coach operating under the name Daring Deeply Coaching. And we are going to be talking about getting back out there, otherwise known as dating, how to know you're ready, whatever that is. So, David, thanks for being here. Tell the listeners a little bit about you and what you do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Annie. So appreciate the invitation. Yeah, so I am a life leadership and relationship coach based here in Kansas City. I serve and support high-achieving professional men and women, and I do have some business clients as well, in helping them achieve and optimize all areas of life and really looking forward and trying to understand what is the next season and how to optimize everything that's going on in their lives. So I am a father of 3 amazing souls who are so much better than me. And they impress me and inspire me every single day. So yeah, I'm a native of Kansas City. I've been here most of my life outside of some seasons of college and that kind of thing, and call Kansas City home, the Midwest home. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
You betcha. Absolutely.
Okay, well, ready. I'm wondering if that's kind of like normal. It's an elusive term that has many different definitions as there are different people. And I think that might be the case. But just for fun, I looked up the Wikipedia definition of dating. So let's see what it has to say. Dating is a stage of romantic relationships in humans whereby 2 people meet socially with the aim of each assessing the other's suitability as a prospective partner in an intimate relationship. It is a form of courtship consisting of social activities done by the couple, either alone or with others. The protocols and practices of dating and the terms used to describe it vary considerably from country to country and over time. And while the term has several meanings, the most frequent usage refers to 2 people exploring whether they are romantically or sexually compatible by participating in dates with the other. With the use of modern technology, people can date via telephone or computer, or just meet in person. Okay, so listeners, how does this align with your definition of dating? Do you think you're there yet? What would it take to get you there? And how would you know you are definitely not there yet? So today, David and I are coming at this topic from the perspective of 2 life coaches, both working with women. And David works with women at the stage of life, I think he mentioned earlier, where, they're just, regardless of what their age is, they want to dig deeper. They want to get more out of their life. And in doing so, he does work with a lot of people, I'm sure, going through divorce or perhaps building their life afterwards. So I would expect dating is a common topic.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say most people want to know first about dating when they're coming to you in a coaching situation?
I think that and I love how Annie, I love how you proposed it. Are you ready? And what I always say, and have said this for years, is we're never ready for anything. And
True.
Yet we're ready for everything.
Yeah.
So it's this juxtaposition of, as far as I knew, I wasn't ready to graduate high school. I wasn't ready to go to college. I wasn't ready to get married. I wasn't ready to have kids. I wasn't ready to change jobs. I wasn't ready to launch this coaching business. And yet I did it, right? And so we make those decisions that are really, we move them from a should decision to a must decision because we're, quote, ready.
Or we want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, or we follow, and this is really where I coach folks in understanding the difference between what they're prepared for, what they're not prepared for, and what societal, religious, cultural narratives tell us that we're ready for, which means, oh, well, I was divorced. Now it's time to, quote, get out there, as you were alluding to. And everybody's situation is absolutely different. And so what I try to do is provide them the space, the real estate for their soul, spirit, mind, body to say, well, this is what I've experienced for the last 15 years in a relationship. Maybe it was a marriage. Most likely it was a marriage. 20 years, 25 years, whatever it may be. And this is what I was used to for so long. Actually, most of my adult life, right? And by the time I'm to that space, it's been a generation since I've been out in the dating world.
Yeah.
So as we know, those of us that have gone into that real estate space, oh my goodness, it is not when you picked up the telephone. And my children are so funny. They're like, Dad, it's not a telephone. It's a phone. It's a cell. Anyway, I start calling it, I keep calling it the telephone. But those days when we would go to the phone and actually call someone, or heaven forbid, actually go out to a club, a bar, a social scene, and walk up to someone, tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm interested in knowing you more. Those days they're still here, but oh my goodness, we have full access to everyone at all times through social media platforms. And so the access to people in the dating world is here, and it in some ways expedites our thoughts on, oh, what is ready? I must be ready because I'm on social media and people found out that I'm divorced or separated, and suddenly I have 47 DMs.
Yeah.
And they're asking me all these types of questions. I guess I'm ready, right? When they may or may not be.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what are their concerns when they're thinking about, am I ready? How do they define it, or what are they trying to do to accomplish that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, what do I do? How do I behave? How do I communicate? What am I ready for? Who am I? So many folks coming out of these relationships, out of marriage, is they define their lives as one thing. This is who I am. Mm-hmm. I'm a wife. I was a husband. I'm a mom. I was a father. This is my defined role. My trajectory was doing this. This is who I was. This was my last name. This was the trajectory of my life. This is the house. These are the kids. These are the in-laws. This is the life, the 401k, everything else that we have ahead of us. And now, suddenly, my whole life has changed, and we've gone off the rails, if you want to look at it that way, and onto another set of rails. Mm-hmm. It feels like we're off the rails a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And now, oh my goodness, I'm not even sure what to do. I'm not sure who I am, which to the point is where I really provide an enormous amount of support for folks to really understand who they are.
Yeah.
Because the more that we know who we are and our security in who we are, because a lot of the time in those marriage relationships, we lost us. I know from my experience, certainly in marriage, is I lost who I was because I became a couple as opposed to retaining my independence as an individual within the bounds of that relationship, which is really how I lead folks. So to come then out of that and say, okay, so who's David? Who's Annie? Who am I? Who am I and what do I bring to the dating table? Yeah. That's really important. Oh my gosh, I'm not even sure what to say. How do I behave? How do I dress? Do I kiss on the first date? Do I have sex on the first date? Do I never have sex again? I mean, all these types of complexities and in a lot of ways, it's super fun for them in ways that...
Because they can be anybody they want to be.
They can be anybody they want to be. That's a perfect point.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very much like I remember going to college and suddenly I'm in an environment where I know no one or very few people and nobody knows me. I can now redefine who I am. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to your point. It's very similar. And it provides some excitement and a lot of inundation, by the way, too, of attention. Mm-hmm. It feels good.
Yeah.
Right? It can feel really good to get attention from folks where you may not have been getting attention for 15, 20, 25 years within the bounds of your marriage.
True.
Depending on the situation.
A lot of those questions, though, that they're asking, I think, are just evidence that maybe they're not, quote unquote, ready. Because if you're asking, what do I say? What do I do? What's proper? I think they maybe don't have a grasp yet on authenticity and just being who you are. Yeah, and that if it's a good fit, that'll be good enough, you know?
Right, yeah.
You could say something totally stupid and it won't matter if you're being who you really are. Exactly. And that person is a good fit for you.
Right. That's a great point. I think one thing that I encourage my clients in this space, Annie, is that I encourage and coach ways to say it's an equal amount of working in the laboratory, and I'll explain what that means, and then working out in the field. So there's lab work and there's field work. And if we identify that as our college days, when you had a lab and you did the chemistry lab and then you had class, right? It's very much how I teach and coach. It's really important to lean into yourself, hire a coach, read a book, listen to a podcast, go on a retreat, go to a conference. That's lab work. You're working in the lab. You're working on yourself. I would say, it's my opinion, my perspective, it's equally important to then get out into the field, which is actually get out and date. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to know what to do. You're going to stumble over your words. You're going to wear the wrong thing. You're going to do whatever. And hopefully you're going to have a little bit of fun to understand, okay, this is a new social environment and it's okay to mess up. So it's okay to have a balance, and I encourage folks to have a balance of lab work and field work.
And the dangers in dating too soon are alleviated when you think about it from that perspective. Just don't take yourself so seriously. It is just practice, you know. And I jokingly just said to someone today, I started dating just so I could practice and mess up on a bunch of people because I wanted to get it all figured out for the right one.
Exactly.
And so I think that is a big part of it is that, there is some dangers probably in dating too soon, but for the most part, it's just going to be a learning experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I often say we're not dating to love necessarily, we're dating to learn. And that it is experimentation, it is practice. I love that you're using the word practice. And it's okay. And as long as we're authentic, as long as we're transparent, and we communicate that from our own confidence when we're out there dating, like, look, this is me. I may or may not be looking for this and that and the other. And it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change your mind in mid-date. It's okay to change your mind 3 months into dating someone and say, you know what, this is maybe not what I'm looking for, or maybe this is something that I'm looking for and I'm ready to take it to the next level. Yeah. So I encourage folks, really in all facets of my coaching, is there's very few mistakes that you're going to make. The mistakes that we make are typically the ones where we're fearful of taking the next step, right? Of leaning into who we can be, want to be, as we're moving through new seasons of life.
Which is exactly where I was going with that.
There you go.
The dangers of not dating soon enough. You get in this rut where I've known people, I've talked to people, I've coached people that they're just never going to date again. You've got to dig and explore that a little bit. I think the dangers that you're just not willing to chance being hurt, I think is the biggest part of it. But there's just so much that goes into that. And there is no perfect relationship. So you need to be good at recognizing red flags and knowing what you want and what you don't want. But dating in and of itself isn't going to keep you from doing that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think it translates into all facets of life. So you're in a job that you've been in for 15 years, you're paid well, you've got great benefits, and you're miserable. So what is it going to take to help you jettison, like fall forward, lean forward, take a huge chance, a huge risk? Are you comfortable? Is it okay to stay here? You don't want to get hurt. You may make a mistake getting into another job or career. Yep. But you would have missed the dances.
And that's not to say anything negative to someone who's made a conscientious choice to not date for a period of time. I've spoke with someone recently that just chose to wait until her children were grown. If you do it with that kind of intention and you know what your goals are, and it's not something you're doing out of fear, then that's a totally different thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think your confidence in who you are and what you want, that will come through. And if you make those conscious choices to say, you know what, this is a season of life that I'm choosing not to get out there. Oftentimes, though, I will say it's a conscious choice because of fear, right? Not in all aspects, but it's a conscious fear. Like, I don't want to go through this again because this does not feel good.
Right.
And as I like to say, what we try to do is we certainly don't want to take the old bricks from the burned down home and move those exact bricks into building the new home. So it's important to know, okay, we need to leave those behind and encourage everyone to show up 100% at all times.
Yeah, and on that note, I think that is one of the hesitations that people have about dating, because I think innately maybe they know that they don't really know what they want or need. I had it recommended to me when I was at this stage to just make a list of your do or die. These are going to be the things that the next partner that I have are going to have. And I won't accept less than this, and maybe there's some you give on a little bit, but these are my do or dies. And not only that, but then next to each one of those things, what do I have to do or be to attract that? Once I had that list, then I was excited about dating because I knew what I wanted. I knew what I needed. I knew how to recognize that in a potential partner. So I went on a lot of first dates.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I knew right away
Yep.
that it was not somebody I was going to jive with.
Right,
So
right.
I think that's a big part of it is knowing.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that you bring up a great point, Annie, in that lots of first dates is not only okay, it's recommended. Again, to our point, this is practice and it's okay. So every time that we accept a first date or go on a first date doesn't mean, well, this is going to lead to a second date. And if it doesn't, then I'm a failure. That's a place in which, okay, we are attaching ourselves to the outcome of the date. Whereas we really need to attach to the fact of, what am I learning in this process? What did I learn about myself in that interaction over dinner? I really like that, or I didn't like that. And I love the idea of, and I encourage this as well with my clients, is, yes, come up with a list. Like, hey, these are the 100%ers, right? And I'm not going to go and go outside of these parameters. And I always encourage curiosity. So, hey, let's say, and I always encourage this, is go outside what you may think you're attracted to. You never know what you may find. Because I've heard some really beautiful stories of, I would have never gone out with that guy. And it just kind of happened, and here we are, right? Yeah. And so, it's a both and for me. I hear this consistently from folks who are frustrated in the dating space is, I don't understand why I keep attracting the same person, right? Why do I continue to attract the person that I really am not interested in? And so we have to reel it back and go, okay, so let's take a look at how we're placing ourselves out there. What kind of energy are we putting out there? Whether it's social media, because the law of attraction is absolutely real, and I believe in it, is you will attract what you are attracting, right?
Right.
So if we are dissatisfied with who we're attracting, we need to look in the mirror first, which is tough to do.
Yeah,
it's really
for sure.
tough to do.
But I mean, that's what coaching is all about.
Absolutely.
It's allowing people to explore, and maybe not even allowing isn't the word. It's challenging people to explore their own thoughts and feelings and ideas, not telling them what to do. And sometimes that means that do's and don'ts lists maybe aren't the best thing in the world, but you know what? They do help you loosely explore what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. And so today I decided just to pull out a do's and don'ts list, and let's just go through it and see if we agree with it.
Absolutely. You bet.
These aren't hard and fast rules. These are just concepts that I think you would be wise to explore your feelings on, and we'll talk just a little bit about each one. The first one is the do's, and that is to be around single people like yourself. Lean into their experience with this scene and their comfort with their independence. Maybe not so much the single people who have been single for 5 minutes and already looking for a date, but people who are comfortable with their singleness.
No, it's a great point. I think it's an equal balance. I would add to that to say it's a real challenge. And those of us that have been through divorce, we had couple friends, right? We had, we were together, and suddenly that dynamic has changed. And unfortunately, sometimes people go one way or another, and those dynamics dramatically shift. And then there are those couple friends that we retain a relationship with that are really, really healthy. And it's okay to be a, quote, third wheel or fifth wheel or whatever it may be. And then I would completely agree with you is that to swim in the waters in which you're comfortable because your dynamic has changed. And so if we stay in the same spaces, as I like to say, if we want to change our environment, we've got to change our environment. Right? So if we want to change,
profound.
I mean, let me write that down, right? So, I often say this to folks is, hey, if you're frequenting the same social spaces with the same people and you're still attracting the same people, we probably need to get outside of our comfort zone, which again is really tough, but I think it's important to change our environments and be with those of like-minded who have those experiences, which can be super tough because it's hard to let go of the environments and the relationships that we had in the past. It's a really tough thing to do, and it has to happen in order for us to move forward.
Yeah, and there's two parts to that. Obviously, you have to grieve what is in the past.
For sure.
But then I think what you're talking about is actually number 2 on this do's and don'ts list. Do accept almost all invitations, especially the odd ones. Divorce parties, church social groups, bars, outdoor activities, concerts, group events, the Meetup app, things that sound like no fun at all. and don't go looking for Mr. Right. Just go and enjoy new experiences in the world and see what fits and what doesn't.
Right. I think, it's a really great point. I consistently encourage my clients to be as organic as they can be. So simply show up in all of your authenticity, wherever that may be, and you never know. So when we go, again, with intention and with an idea that I'm going to meet someone, right? The outcome is if I don't go out tonight and identify and meet someone and really attach myself to something, then it's a failure. As opposed to, I am going to put myself out there. We hear that phrase, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to put myself out there, and, if it happens, it happens. I consistently hear the most beautiful stories of folks meeting when it's completely organic. You hear those stories. Oh my gosh, had no idea. And suddenly he was there. Suddenly she was there. And I would have never planned it.
Yeah. For sure. To your point earlier, you're redefining yourself anyway. You don't really know who you are, so how do you know what you do and don't like?
Right.
You're making this judgment that you're not going to like something because it's outside of your comfort zone, when the reality is you might actually enjoy it. And you don't know unless you put yourself out there and go do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so number 3 is do on that first date ever after your divorce, spoil yourself. Splurge a little. This is the beginning of a new chapter in your life. Mark the occasion with something, whatever that might be.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, I think this gets back to, and I completely agree with you, this gets back to you. This is about you. And it may be the first time in 10, 15, 20, 25 years that it's been about you. It's your opportunity to redefine who you are. So yeah, no one knows who I am in this new space. So why not redefine completely who I am and spoil the heck out of me? Let's do this. Let's go somewhere where I've never gone before. Let's experience something that I've never done. Sometimes they can be really, really profound new ideas that move us in a direction that we would have never thought before.
Not to necessarily invest so much in that first date that, that if it's not somebody you want to see again, that you are heartbroken. Just, that new outfit and that new whatever you do to splurge is about you. It's not about that person that you're going to sit down and have dinner with or whatever you're doing.
Because you can use that new outfit the next time.
That's right.
Why not?
Add a new piece.
Absolutely. I love it.
Do expect nervousness, discomfort, bad dates, bad breath, and all the awkwardness, because it will happen. My saying is just to go anywhere that you want to go or are invited to go, or just get an idea to go and just see what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, expect nothing, expect everything. In a way that says you just never know. Again, we keep returning to this idea of attaching ourselves to a particular outcome.
Yeah.
So if it goes this way, then it's successful. Or if it goes this way, it's not successful. It is a complete learning experience. And so expect the unexpected. You never know. And to laugh it off and go, better luck next time. Or, wow, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to see that person.
And I always say you're either going to have a good date or you're going to have a good story. If you don't take yourself too seriously and you can just look at it like that, you can actually really enjoy all these first dates.
Absolutely.
that are never going to happen
all
again.
These first dates. Yeah, exactly. Right. Absolutely.
Right.
You betcha.
Okay, so number 5. If you're new to the dating game after a decades-long marriage, do brush up on your social skills. Find a dating coach like David or me, I guess. But my focus is more on getting you through the divorce and the recovery part that comes before the dating. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm asked this question often so who needs a coach, right? In whatever faculty that you may think of. I know people who have business coaches. I have a coach. If I didn't have a coach, I wouldn't be able to do what I do to help provide that perspective and that feedback. And it's important that we have someone in our lives who is not emotionally connected to us, right? Because we all have those guy friends or girlfriends who will tell us whatever we want to hear, which is not always the best counsel or not always the best perspective. They love us no matter what, and we appreciate them, but it's really important during this time to get perspective that has nothing to do with them knowing your ex-husband, your ex-wife, anything that's going on in your life, and to give you a fresh perspective to say, how do I behave in this new space? What is expected? What is this TikTok? What is this Snapchat? What is this Facebook Messenger? What are these dating apps that everyone is on? How do I write one? What do I do? How do I respond to a DM that's inappropriate? How do I respond to a DM that's amazing? Because it is a different world. And to your point, after 10 years of not being, quote, in the dating world, it does take some time to understand that and to really chase after some expertise.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and another suggestion was to make a list of some questions or topics that are kind of cool and okay to talk about on dates, and maybe a few that are definitely probably should not be discussed on the first date, like your divorce, your ex. And then, you accidentally may say something you regret, but, at least you've kind of got a little bit of a framework for what might be the best subjects to talk about during these dates.
Yeah. I think preparation is an important part of that. Although I will say and add, not to overshadow your authenticity and to say, I've got all these planned questions, and yet I really want to ask this one. Or the conversation that he is directing or she's directing in a certain direction, boy, it'd be really great to go in that way. I would also offer, to your point, we've all been on those types of interactions where suddenly we're bashing everyone, right? Oh, well, my divorce was this, and my divorce was this, and oh my gosh, you too? And so now we're trauma bonding.
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company. We're suddenly trauma bonding about each other's exes.
Yeah.
So I know I coach my clients in really being perceptive and discerning about, for me, that's a huge red flag to be, okay, I think maybe this is perhaps someone that I'm not going to continue to have some sort of interaction because they need to be where they need to be and I need to be where I need to be. At the same time, be organic. So if the conversation comes up and it's more of a listening, more of a supportive role, and we are talking about the divorce, we are talking about the ex, but it's not into this cesspool of cynicism and darkness and this kind of thing, I think it's completely okay to have those conversations because that's real.
Yeah.
20 minutes before you walk into that first date, you get a phone call from the ex, and suddenly the space you're in is a really crappy place.
Yeah.
And it feels appropriate, and you're really, lingering in your authenticity. It's okay to talk about that. It gets a bad rap to say, oh, never talk about this or this or this.
Yeah.
I think as long as you stay in your authentic self, I think anything is available and open.
Yeah. Well, and just to compare and contrast, my first and probably worst date after my marriage.
I can't wait to hear this story.
Well, we definitely talked about the exes.
Yep.
Think his was final. Mine wasn't final yet, but it was very close.
Yep.
And it definitely did not feel comfortable to me. He was asking me questions about my ex and telling me stuff about his ex, and I was just sort of like wanting to go in a different direction with the conversation, but just descended from there, and I won't even get into all of that. Yeah. So that's one way that can go. And then on the flip side, my boyfriend now, one of our first dates, if not the first date, we talked about our exes, but it was in the way of just understanding where each other had been. And it was a really cool connection point because we both had been with our high school sweethearts since we were teenagers. And I honestly did not think I would meet somebody else who had that exact experience. Yeah. And so it was really a bonding point for us. So it can go either way, and it's really, like you said, it's about being in your authentic self and what's comfortable for you. Where are you at? And if bashing your ex is comfortable for you, you may not be ready for dating because
that may be.
Honestly, you've got to get out of that space because regardless of whatever they did, they could be the most horrible, vile creature on earth, but that's your past. And the power that you have today is in letting that go and focusing on you. And why did you choose that? And why did you allow yourself to stay in that situation? And what are you doing differently now to never go back there again?
Absolutely.
And that's where your power is. So don't get stuck on talking about exes just because it's fun, right?
Right, so. Yeah. Yeah, again, to your point, misery does love company, and it prevents us from moving forward and transforming into someone who, one, takes personal responsibility, right? I'm constantly coaching on this. You chose that person.
Yeah. Yep.
You chose them. Yeah, but you chose that person, but they changed. Yeah, I didn't know them.
Really.
We went in different directions, and they did this, and they did that. And you chose to remain, you chose to do this, you chose to do that. To get into that space of personal responsibility is a huge deal and a show of maturity that really launches you into the next season of life, to be ready for someone to say, you know what, these are the mistakes that I made. I'm owning up to that. I'm taking responsibility of that. That's my story. And this is where I am, and this is who I'm presenting to you as you're talking to a first or second or third date.
And, back on the subject specifically of dating, one of the best things I did as I prepared for that stage of my life was to read a book, came by recommendation of somebody that I respected, and it was Dr. Henry Cloud, who wrote the book on boundaries. He has another book called How to Get a Date Worth Keeping. And it's one that I don't know why he hasn't revised it and done more with it, because it's just a little gem of a book. It's an easy read, and it will totally shift your perspective in some pretty pleasant ways about dating as a whole. And it's a lot of what we've been talking about today, just the kinds of focuses on just getting out there and living your life. And, one of the things I remember him talking about, and me and my best friend talked about it a lot, was if you're sitting in a room out alone, eating dinner alone, one, that's a really good thing to do. You should try it. If you really hate the idea, you should definitely try it. And
yes, exactly.
you may be sitting there just like staring at your phone or something, or even if you're with friends, you may keep your eyes centered on that group of people. Well, what if instead you just wore your authentic smile and just be you and look around the room?
Yep.
and see if somebody catches your eye.
Absolutely.
And then just smile back. And that may be all that happens. You may never talk to that person ever again. But he talks about this in the book. And this is just one of the tips and tricks, I guess, that he offers people in just owning who you are and just getting out and enjoying life. So I cannot recommend that book enough. Okay, so now we're on to the don'ts list. And it kind of goes back to what we first started with, which is don't hang out, at least exclusively, with all your former married friends and couples. That is just depressing. Being around all married and people that are in relationships is just not good for your spirits. Togetherness can be annoying. It can be a reminder of the things that you had to give up, and there could be a lot of issues there. So, and your good friends that are married are going to understand that. You're just shifting a little bit, and you're opening your social circles up.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, something that I've landed on recently is that, and it's really kind of counter to our societal narrative that says, and this is the really tough space, that single is less than married. Single is, I can't say it in another word, but it is less than being married or coupled or
like
partnered.
You're missing something.
You're missing something. You hear this often. Oh, you're still single, right? You're still single. Why are you single? You know, these types of questions oh my gosh, you're an amazing person. Why are you still single? Like the outcome, the goal of life is to be coupled. And I mean, that's a whole nother conversation to be had. But I think it's important to understand that people have forever been incredibly comfortable and safe and secure and honoring their space, being with no one, and in the same regard, being coupled. And both are absolutely 100% okay. That's a really tough place because we could talk about this too briefly, is we do have so much, an enormous amount of shame surrounding divorce still, even though our divorce rate is 50%-ish, depending on how you look at the statistics. And so in some ways, it's the very quiet majority that says, wait a minute, why are we still in this space? Because it's indicative of failure. But this just came to mind. Those that may be listening are familiar with Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed. Highly, highly recommend this book for everyone. It's really written for and written toward women, but I recommend both men and women. But she says something really powerful in this book where she came to an understanding in her marriage that it was not over. She wasn't breaking up. She wasn't ending the marriage. She was completing the marriage. And that is, and this book is full of incredible gems. I mean, it's really a life. It's, in my opinion, the best book that's been written in 5 to 10 years for everyone in different seasons of life and shades of life. But that is one of the things that I took out of that book, Annie, that was incredibly powerful for me first, is to say, because we get so wrapped up and attached to this idea of relationship, and when it ends, it's a failure. We even use words. We're breaking up. Heartbreak, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh, we broke up. I mean, all these broken words, right? That is indicative that we're broken, which is absolutely not true. Yeah. So how she worded that when she sat her husband down and had the most beautiful and tough and challenging and real and raw conversation is she says to him, our marriage is complete. Wow. That's such an interesting way to look at it, is our relationships when we're dating. Our relationship is complete, which means there was a beginning, a middle, and an end. And oh my goodness, did I learn an enormous amount. I brought to the table, you brought to the table. We enjoyed each other's company. We learned some things. And it's okay that the relationship is complete and not over.
That's
interesting
good.
way to look at that.
Very good.
So, yeah,
I like that a lot.
All the props to Glennon. She's amazing.
We'll definitely put that in the episode description so you can grab a hold of those book names that have been mentioned. So number 2 on this list for don'ts is don't stay home all the time. There's an old saying that Mr. Right is not going to show up on your doorstep, and I add to that, if he does, well, that's just creepy. So we all have kind of a poor me victim attitude, after divorce for a while, or even, maybe for a long time, we still struggle with that. But we just don't want to stay there and decorate the place. That's not you. You are better than that. You want to get out. You want to go live your life, meet new people, make new friends and new potential mates. Just don't fixate on finding the one. There's just so much more to life than that. It's like you were saying, being single isn't being less than. It's just a season of life.
Absolutely.
And for some people, it's their whole life, and they don't have anything missing. They love their lives. So it's really a mindset that we need to really, I guess, reevaluate. We don't have to be partnered up to enjoy life.
Absolutely. And that there is a missing component. Something's wrong with you. You're broken if you're, or this red flag, oh my goodness, they've never been married. They're not married now. What's wrong with them? Right? Yeah. There must be something wrong if you're not partnered, if you're not coupled, if you're not married. And it's simply not true. Piggybacking off of what you said, is Mr. Wright's just not going to show up. One of the things that I share with my clients is he's not going to just show up just because you're fed up, right? Is like banging on the social media door or to your friends over wine night or whatever it may be. Like, there are no good men out here. I am so fed up. I'm so frustrated. Perhaps where we're looking, perhaps where we are, and he's not going to be in the closet at your home, to your point, right? We have to actually be proactive and understand that we need to go to different spaces and places and environments. But to your point, we have to get out. We can't just wonder that they're going to fall out of the sky. Right?
Exactly. Well, not only that, but I think you really have to love your life on your own before you're really in a good space to bring the best version of yourself to a potential future mate. Because if you're finding somebody out of need instead of want, that's just going to introduce problems if a relationship does actually happen with that person. And one thing I've said many times is I am thrilled that I met somebody that I most likely will spend the rest of my life with. But still, there's that part of me that's like, I didn't really get to enjoy single life all that long. And I think that's a healthy perspective. Because I think you can't go to dating out of need. Right. And when you do, you may not miss the single life, but I just think it's going to introduce problems into the relationship that will have to then be worked through. And so what are your thoughts on that?
I bring this up with clients is there's a significant difference between the word want and the word need. So ultimately, it's not pie in the sky. It's not, that can never happen. It's a reality to really be in a place of non-attachment, to never need anyone or anything. That's ultimately where we can get to a level of peace, satisfaction, honoring of self. It's really tough to get there, to say, but I need my kids. Do you? Right? That's really tough. All the parents right now are thinking, wait, whoa, you just meddled, all right? You were given some good stuff, and now you just meddled. But the point is when we put a need into a relationship, then we become codependent on it. So if something happens, and this happens a lot of times in parenting, our child does something, and we take it as a reflection of ourselves when it has nothing to do with us. But they're our child, and it has nothing to do with you, right? You're honoring their space. They're a completely different person than you. So it's the same thing in personal relationships. Is we have this idea that, oh my gosh, Lifetime movies, rom-coms, love songs, forever have said, it's so sweet and so cute to need someone. I need you. I can't live without you. You're the most amazing thing. I can't imagine life without you. Those can be potentially really dangerous narratives that we just buy into. And what it says is it leads into yet another relationship of codependency. Like, if they do this, then I behave this way. So ultimately, we're trying to understand ourselves as an independent soul, spirit, mind, body that is co-creating with another person. They have their life, you have your life, and then we have this triangulation that happens and we develop a journey together that is beautiful. And yet, we don't need it, we want it. It's a significant difference.
Yeah, definitely. It reminded me of a song from the 80s, which was a really good song, and the lyrics are something like, I need you to need me, I want you to want me.
I want you to want me,
and I'm like, that pretty much describes a toxic relationship.
Absolutely it does. Yep. I want you to fall in love with me. I'm trying to get you to fall in love with me. I need you. I can't live without you. I think about you all the time. Those types of phrases are very common in our culture, and we think, oh, that's sweet, right? Hallmark was developed on that. Love Hallmark, Kansas City company. Love you, Hallmark.
Doesn't matter if it's Hallmark or not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's Hallmark, American Greetings, whatever it may be. But some of those phraseologies that are grounded in sentimentality can be really, really hurtful when it comes to independence and interdependence within the bounds of a relationship.
Yeah, and that is another topic as well. Codependency versus independence versus interdependence.
Absolutely.
What do we even want? What's the goal?
Yep.
But we will have to definitely
We
do
will.
a
I look forward to
episode
that,
on that.
for sure.
On the topic of loving your life before you begin dating, don't forget to give yourself some breathing space between the signed decree and your first date. You are going to be in a vulnerable space, whether or not you feel like you are, whether or not the loneliness is killing you and driving you crazy. You have to acknowledge this vulnerability and this loss and kind of go face to face or toe to toe with that, with yourself. Get comfortable with how uncomfortable it is.
Beautifully said, Annie. I think everyone is in a different space when it comes to divorce. Whether we're in a comfort level where I am not going to date until it is legally and officially over. There's always this interesting dichotomy and debate about dating and when do you do that. And certainly from my own personal experience and so many others that have related to me is your emotional attachment, the emotional part of that marriage, the emotional part of that partnership was gone long before the decree was ever signed. And so everyone, it's the same conversation that I've had, and I've had some really good friends who have lost a marriage partner to death, and there was judgment placed on when they're ready from other people. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that they started dating only 3 months after someone died. Or they waited 10 years, or whatever it may be. Yeah. And what I always try to encourage is everyone is in a different place. What's important to note here is you're right, you're absolutely correct. I'm so glad that you said that. Divorce is death. Mm-hmm. It is a death. And it is a death of a narrative, it's a death of a relationship, a death of a fairy tale, right? It's a death of an idea, and you go through the grieving process. And everyone goes through the grieving process differently. Some people are angry, some people are sad, some people are happy. Mm-hmm. I've often said, people will say, oh yeah, I'm going through a divorce. And the general response to that person is, oh, I'm so sorry.
And they go, don't be.
Don't be sorry. Are you kidding? This is the best day of my life. And that's okay too. It's not heaped in cynicism. It's heaped in reality, and it's where you are. I often say this. It's okay to be okay. It's okay to not be okay. But it's really important that we honor every single feeling that comes up in this grieving process. And no one, and I mean no one, is allowed to say what you should be or shouldn't be doing or how soon do you date or this and that and the other. Mm-hmm. I do agree with you on the point that, hey, it's okay to be alone. Mm-hmm. It's okay to feel all those feelings associated with loneliness, associated with the grieving process, the death of the marriage, so to speak. It's absolutely okay. Oftentimes, especially with women, and I'll say this here because I feel compelled to, is every single day, unfortunately, women are fed two myths. They're fed two lies. You're not enough, and you're too much. Mm-hmm. Which now it leaves women, at
the exact same time.
And I know you can't see us right now, but Annie is smiling at me saying, yes, that's exactly where I am. And so that leaves the feminine to say, well, where do I go? If I'm too much and I'm not enough, which means, goodness gracious, I can't cry, yet I need to feel this. Where do my emotions lie? It's to say every emotion is valid. I'm consistently coaching men on the other side to say, by the way, she's not an emotional wreck. She's not crazy. Don't ever call her that. She's an emotional, powerful fire to be encouraged, to be loved, to be cherished. I know you may not understand her, but what she's feeling is absolutely valid. She's not blowing things out of proportion. She's not overly emotional, right? She's who she is. So let's begin to embrace that. It's really tough for men because we're more logical. We don't understand why she's crying. And we say, oh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Because we're uncomfortable with watching her embrace her emotion. And so coming back to this, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling and feel it as long as you want to. And no one, and I mean no one, right, has permission to tell you, oh, you should get out there. It's your decision. And sure, though, to our point, which I think is really great counsel and advice that you've been providing here, Annie, is that surround yourself with folks who are encouraging, right? Surround yourself with folks who will feed you the truth and love you through it and encourage you to do whatever you need to do and wherever you need to do it.
One of my favorite sayings that just randomly came out when I was talking to some friends one time was to feel all the feelings you need to feel until you feel better.
Love that. Love that. That's so beautiful.
And then
I
I'm
love
sure
it.
everybody's heard this before, but don't let others should on you.
Oh,
And
my
yes,
goodness.
I said it just like that.
Yep.
Both of those things are grounded in shame.
Absolutely.
If you haven't studied on any level how shame is insidiously trying to destroy you, you should read Brené Brown. She's awesome. She's got a lot of years of research into human behavior, why we do the things we do. And shame is a big, big part of our
huge.
culture. It's
It's
in our
absolutely huge.
schools, it's in our workplaces, it's in our relationships. And it's undermining everything we need and want in our lives. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Cry when you need to cry.
Absolutely.
Learn to like the fact that you're crying. Maybe for years somebody's been telling you to stop crying, like you said. Men are uncomfortable with that. They discourage it. You're alone now. You're on your own now. Cry when you want to cry.
okay.
Nobody's there to tell you otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more on Brené Brown.
Yeah, well,
for
we
sure.
could start preaching now, so we better just
For
go on
sure.
to the
Yeah, we
next
better
one
let
here.
that go right now. Yep.
Okay, so the last one is don't sleep with a guy on the first date. And if you do, don't beat yourself up. It is without a doubt close to the worst thing you can do, not only because of how it will make you feel later, if not during, but it just sets a really bad tone for the rest of your dating experiences. It's not going to get you where you want to be. So what are your thoughts on that?
I would add that, and how I encourage my clients is whatever season or whatever space that you feel comfortable, if you feel comfortable in that space, and it is a consensual episode, season, and you're both in it for the same reasons, and you're okay and comfortable and confident in that space, do what you feel, do what you want to do. The downside to that is, oh my goodness, I wasn't comfortable with this. I didn't know how to say no, or didn't know how to say maybe, and now I'm having the after effect, right? The walk of shame that we all
Or I
talk
thought
about.
I wanted it,
I
but
thought
now I
wanted
don't.
it, and then so I'm constantly coaching and have been teaching men for years, is somewhat in a different subject, but you're constantly, as men, we're constantly asking for consent. Not just at the beginning of the episode, through the entire episode, through the entire season of a sexual encounter, is you are constantly checking in and learning that discernment. I think it's important to know, because to your point about shame, is shame will seep into that, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I cannot believe I slept with this guy. Who am I? There I go again. See, someone once upon a time told me I was a slut. And now I just realized it. Right? Yeah. Shame, right? Whereas in reality, no, it's okay. I love what you said, and I can't repeat what you just said, but it's like, and if you do,
Don't beat yourself up.
don't beat yourself up. It's okay. Today's another day.
Yeah.
You learned from it, right? It was a lesson. We were learning from that experience, and now let's move on.
Yeah. So learn the lesson either before or after it happens. Just try to understand your motivations, I think, is the thing, and know, really, are you wanting what you think you want? Is it some other need or missing piece somewhere else that really could be met in a totally different way that won't have that regret? So yeah, that is the end of that do's and don'ts list, but there's literally no end to this conversation.
Absolutely.
So we just kind of have to stop for the sake of time. Is there anything else you want to add that you regularly address with people as they encounter the dating decision?
The more that you know you, the more that you spend time with you, the more that you lean into who you are and have folks around you who are on a level of professional expertise, or those friends who love you no matter what, and they're going to be there and they encourage you to be in that space of everything is okay, right? To our point that we keep repeating, that there are very few mistakes that you can make. A mistake, right, is when we incorporate shame and regret. It's like it's a lesson to be learned. It's either fantastic, and I think you said this earlier today, Annie, is that you either learn from it or it's a fantastic experience. Either way, you're good.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Well, we've given you a lot to think about, listeners, as you consider your dating life after divorce. We just want to say thank you again for listening and tuning in to hear about these topics that affect you as you are going through divorce. We are here to educate you and to offer you encouragement as you go through this journey. So thank you for joining us today. We'll see you again next week for Starting Over Stronger, Divorce Survival and Recovery.